A&M's football program brought in one of their best recruiting classes in history, largely thanks to those NIL deals. Some would say. No, I think that we would just say that's the reason why. What is up, everybody? It is Jake with Master of Football, back at it again. Happy Wednesday. Thank you so much for being here. If you want to be up to date on all things EA college football, subscribe to this channel right now. I also do plenty of college football videos and pro and Madden videos as well. Please subscribe, okay? It's not going to cost you anything. Hit that red subscribe button. All it will cost you is being up to date on everything EA college football and seeing plenty of college football videos as well as some Madden and pro videos. Also, please like, share, comment, subscribe. Do all those things. I really appreciate it. Without further ado, let's get into the video. All right, guys, so here we are. We are right before the start of week 3 of college football. And again, I had mentioned before that week 1 is usually where those big-time matchups are. There's a lot of those, neutral site games. There's invitations. You got the Chick-fil-A kickoff. There's a couple different things like that. I also like to bring up the fact that week 2 and 3 typically soften up a little bit. I will say week 2 is actually plenty entertaining. For anybody out there who didn't watch the Kentucky and Florida game, that was a great game out there to watch. I'm telling you, if you didn't watch the Oregon State versus Fresno State game, you missed out. Okay, no ifs, ands, or buts about that. Baylor BYU was a solid game too. So I think that the big issue though with that is the fact that the hype heading into week 2 was not necessarily as high as heading into week 1. Now week 3 is coming up, same situation here. There's not as many marquee matchups. There's some matchups that I'm interested in watching, but marquee big time matchups, I don't necessarily know. I do know that Alabama and Texas was a big one. We will come back to that one in a second here. But I actually want to talk more so about the big picture of college football, because there's two big bugaboos out there right now that are constantly being debated and scaring people away and this and that. So we're going to talk about those two big bugaboos really, really quickly here. Starting off with the first one, the first big bugaboo being NIL. So NIL, pay for play in many instances. Name, image, and likeness is what NIL stands for those of you who don't know. But NIL is, a lot of people were worried about it because of, we're going to say, one team out there that was, I don't want to say explicitly just paying players to go play for them, but essentially just paying players to go play for them. And they were able to turn it into the greatest recruiting class we've ever seen in our entire lives. Boom. Texas A&M athletes raked in over $4 million in NIL money in 2021. Collier Logan, September 9th, 2022. We come down here and break this down. While NIL is largely unrelated realm, unregulated realm, and that is a big point of contention with the NCAA right now. A lot of people are pissed off at Mark Emmert because they're like, why aren't we enforcing this? Why aren't you enforcing this? And now it actually turns out that he's actually reaching out to the universities to see if they will regulate this. And unfortunately, the top level universities are like, why would we regulate something that could give us a competitive advantage? That's neither here nor there. But the state of Texas requires that NIL contracts be disclosed along with their values. And there you go, $4 million. And again, I believe the rumor was that they were paying 5-star players up to $1 million per year to go play for them. Now, this one sentence right here is the best thing in the entire world. A&M's football program brought in one of their best recruiting classes in history, largely thanks to those NIL deals. Some would say. No, I think that we would just say that's the reason why. And checking it out, I mean, literally here, 333, 8 5-star players, 20 4-star players. So that's 28 players. That's mind-boggling how many stars they just brought in. That's absolutely shocking. And the crazy thing about that is they went out and they did this. Oh my goodness. Pay for play losses in week 2. Texas A&M, in that one clip of the guy of the Texas A&M fight or celebration midnight cheer thingy, he was like trying to drop some jokes and they were real cringe. Obviously, he was just like, yeah, they're smelly, boo, or whatever the hell he said. They paid $1.5 million to lose to App State. App State, remember, App State lost to North Carolina 61-63. They're totally capable of scoring points. Texas A&M's defense is very, very good. But again, you have college football, you have enough possessions, and a team that can score 61 on an ACC team, I think they should be able to score 17 on an SEC team. That's just a guess there. You also see Nebraska paid $1.42 million to Georgia Southern to lose to them, and then Marshall got $1.25 to go there and beat Notre Dame, and Incarnate Word beat Nevada. Carnivore's not even a real team. Not JK. They're a real team. Okay. Weber State absolutely annihilated Utah State. Utah State was the reigning Mountain West champ, and they returned their quarterback, and they look like trash. I have to do a deeper dive on Utah State just to see what's going on there. And then Bowling Green lost to Eastern Kentucky. But I'm telling you right now, that is a big aspect here. So much so that Jimbo Fisher's doing whatever he can. Relinquishing play calling duties, something that Texas A&M Aggies coach Jimbo Fisher could evaluate if struggles continue. Well, I'm going to let you know right now. Unfortunately, and here is the big thing. I have to come off camera really quickly just to make sure I speak to you about this. I think a lot of people are worried about NIL because they're thinking that, the rich are just going to keep on richer. Blah, 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 blah. I believe that, there are certain aspects where, and anytime a power structure obtains power, they're going to do whatever they can to maintain that power and actually do whatever they can to continue to extend that separation of power. But I mean, they could pay $1 million for an athlete to come over there and go with them. There could be a point that I think that it could hurt them, hurt the rest of the league. But I'll get to that in a second here, because the point you all have to remember here, and this is the big point behind not having to worry about NIL, is you still have to play the games. Okay, I do believe that the only situation where this NIL could be an issue is if an athlete got more money to ride the bench at a big-time school for 4 years than he did to go and start for 4 years at a smaller school. That would be in a situation where he's like, here's what I am. I'm a 4-star recruit. I could go to, Texas Tech, who actually is stepping up their NIL game. Don't get me wrong. I could go to, Kansas, or I can go to Kansas State or something like that. Or I could go and I could ride Pine at Alabama and just be a reserve for 4 seasons and get paid $10 million a year, $20 million a year. Then I think that would be an issue. However, I do know that the market is going to correct itself. And it's one of those weird things where I think, Texas A&M, they're paying, like I said, $4 million in 2021. The rumor was up to $1 million per 5-star athlete for 2022. And I'm telling you, at the end of the day, you still have to play the game. And for all those people out there saying, oh, yeah, well, that recruiting class is all freshmen. Remember, the years before that, I believe it was 8, 6, and 4. So I don't want to hear the fact that Texas A&M doesn't have athletes, okay? That team that's 4 consecutive top 10 recruiting classes, and they lost to App State at home. No excuses. Shut your mouth. So like I said, I'm not very worried about NIL. I do think that, if it got extreme enough, if it got to the point where they were paying 3-star athletes $20 million and, a University of South Florida was like, we'll give you $5,000, then I think it could affect the competitive nature of the game. But I don't see that coming anytime soon. So that's one. NIL over, I'm not necessarily worried about it. The next one is conference realignment, super conferences, and things like that. I do believe, and one of the weird things, because I think Ohio State, I'm not a big fan of Ohio State. My friend is a Michigan fan. But Ohio State is going to do something for us that I believe is extremely important. We're getting into that right now. And again, we all remember this tweet here from John Wilner. The Pac-12 survival is now a 5-point favorite over Extinction, up from 4.5. I think that's all just hypothetical there. But the chances of more Big Ten expansion this cycle have diminished. We do not believe Ohio State supports additional moves, and that's a big vote against. Remember here with that. The Big Ten is going to 16 teams out of USC and UCLA over. And again, basically except for baseball, it's not going to be a big situation because LA to Lincoln, LA will fly direct to just basically everywhere. Indianapolis, Minneapolis, Chicago, Columbus, New York, everything like that. That will be just fine. I do think that Penn State might be a little bit of a situation, but I think they'll figure it out. But the big thing about that is 16, like I said before, 16 is a really nice number. Again, you have 3 teams you play every year. Then you have the remaining 12. You cut that in half, 6 and 6. You play everybody every 2 years, everywhere, every 4. The TV networks really, really like that because they get to see those big-time prime matchups. So a big aspect of that is they're basically saying, hey, why are we going to add Oregon and Washington and Stanford and try to add Notre Dame? Notre Dame already said no, but why would we try to add them into our league if we're just going to dilute the amount of money we get? Maybe the fact that Kevin Warren is like, I'm thinking forward, I want to get these markets and this and that, But I think that Ohio State's probably like, first of all, that's going to cost us money, and that we don't want to cost us money. Let's kind of avoid that situation. So it looks like right now that the Pac-12 may survive just because Ohio State's like, we don't want to give Oregon and Washington money. And again, a big thing here too, where the Big 12 expansion strategy is going out west. A big concept behind that. A lot of people were like, oh, they're going to take Pac-12 teams. I think that if Ohio State doesn't want to add Pac-12 schools, then the Pac-12 has a little bit of a position of strength. I know this is shocking, but again, I want to make sure I'm speaking all to the Big 12 fans out there. All you Big 12 fans that were saying, oh yeah, well, we're definitely stronger than the Pac-12. All of you last year were thinking, hey, Pac-12, you guys want to invite us real quick? Remember, that's the same situation. You guys know exactly what I'm talking about. Big 12 fans, I'm just telling you right now, if you have a little bit more faith in the Pac-12 and for them and their ability to survive, just because I think that Ohio State doesn't want to dilute their shares other than, getting it to USC and UCLA, who add money to the pot there. So I do think that the Big 12 is going to expand out west. It looks like it might be G5 teams. I know that they definitely want to do that, though, for this reason. And this was from the Big 12 Conference. Look at this right here. Our future is bright. Baylor BYU game on Saturday was the ESPN's best late night since 2016 with 2.4 million viewers. Wink, wink, hint, hint. That's why they want to expand out west. I know that a lot of West Virginia fans, and I'm a big fan of a lot of West Virginia fans, they're like, West Virginia, Cincinnati, Central Florida, this sucks. Why are you expanding out there? You're going to cost us so much more money. But again, the reason why they're trying to do that is because the networks want that extra, that last window. And I know that the Pac-12 has kind of a corner of the market on that. USC and UCLA being out there is going to be more valuable to them. We'll see how many games they can actually get out there in LA. But I do know that the Pac-12 still has a firm hold of that Western time slot. The Big 12 wants a piece of that too. Like I said, this is probably good news for my boys, Boise State. This is probably good news for, really good news for San Diego State, because they are the only team out there that is kind of a free agent in that market. So I do suspect, though, that I'm telling you, because we're not going to see super conferences, I think that the Pac-12 and Big 12 survive and both expand more than likely with G5 teams. I know I'm a homer. I'm a Boise State fan. I know that. But I'm basically saying, I think people are really worried about this, but I wouldn't necessarily be worried about this. And another big aspect behind that is this game right here. So the super conferences, I think a big aspect of super conferences that can be harmful is that it's going to detract from these possible games. Now, again, this was a non-conference game here. Alabama visited in a true road game visiting Texas. One thing that I despise, that I can't really handle in this situation, one thing I despise is big-time schools not playing true away games or doing their best to avoid those true away games. Reason being is because I think it's just kind of, chicken poop or whatever, I just don't like it. But again, at the same time, I just want to make sure we're clear. Two things can be true at the same time. Okay, Alabama is the best football dynasty we have ever seen, and they're still terrified of playing road games because this right here is the type of game you're in. This is a game where, Hudson or Quint Ewers gets injured. Hudson Card almost gets injured. They had two quarterbacks. I mean, they almost got to their third string quarterback, and they were 1 or 2 minutes away from winning that game. Couldn't quite do it. Again, Bryce Young put the team on his back, though. He put the team on his back. But again, I want to make sure you know that. So check this out. This is an Ohio State fan, clearly, and he says, amazingly, Nick Saban has never lost a non-conference road game in his 15 years at Alabama. If Bama wins at Texas this season, he will move to an incredible 3-0. And I think that I can connect that back to conference realignment because Alabama-Texas is going to be a conference game, maybe even sooner than 2025, 2026, maybe even sooner than that. But I know that by then it will be a conference game. And if you had to tell the networks, like, all right, here's the deal. Do you want to add a bunch of teams to the SEC and get a bunch of miscellaneous matchups here and there, or do you want to see top-flight teams play top-flight games? I say that because if you get to 20, 24, 28, 30 teams in a conference, you're going to start to dilute the conference viability and teams and things like that. So I think that they want to see these games as much as possible. Texas, Oklahoma, in a true road game. Not a selected game here. Remember, Texas last year, or Alabama last year, lost at Texas A&M, the same team we were kind of talking trash on earlier there. But my point is that true road games, it adds that was great television there. Alabama, Texas was awesome. If they had played a neutral site game, which is what those big time programs like to do, don't you worry, I see you big time programs. You don't want to play true away games because then things get a little dicey. The crowd noise and this and that, and we have to travel, and maybe people are banging on our bus as we enter the stadium, things like that. So I do know that more away games, more big time matchup away games, more in conference games. I think that eventually what's going to happen is all the conferences are going to go to 9 conference games because the networks are going to say we want to see that. So I think that's what's going to be the situation here. And like I said, I think that that's the big aspect. NIL is not going to destroy college football because you still have to play the games. And then conference realignment isn't going to destroy college football because the networks still want to make top flight matchups. I know a big aspect of conference realignment is that they're like, oh, well, Cal and Stanford are going to be added because of market capture and things like that. There's one issue that is, I'm telling you, nobody's talking about in college football, but they need to start talking about it. So here we are on comparatech.com, cord cutting statistics and trends in 2022. Cord cutting is a fast-growing trend among U.S. residents. It involves cutting the cord on high-cost pay TV options, including cable TV and satellite TV. Cord cutters aren't ditching TV altogether. Instead, they're shifting to lower-cost online streaming options like on-demand giant Netflix and Google's YouTube TV. Major cable providers collectively lost 6 million pay TV subscribers each year between 2019 and 2021. So that's 6, 12, 18, 20, almost 20 million people cut the cord in 3 years. I'm telling you right now, I think that the size of the teams, the size of the conferences, in addition to the lack of cord or the expansion of cord cutting, is going to make sure that what we want to do in the future is we want to highlight big time matchups between big time games. I do like the fact that, USC or UCLA seems like they're a little bit of a beneficiary there because they're not as big of a brand as USC. But I'm telling you, the fact that it's in LA, there's a lot of Big Ten alumni out in LA. The fact that UCLA can get their crap around, they can turn into a really good program. USC's out there, they have that rivalry game. What they're going to try to emphasize in the future is top flight games and more of them. That right there, with the expansion of the playoff, and with the fact that it looks like everybody's going to try to get to 16 teams. I think everybody's going to try to get to 16 teams. SEC's done it. Big Ten's done it. I wouldn't be surprised if the Pac-12 and the ACC eventually, and then the Big 12 all try to do it too, just because, like you said, more interconference matchups, more rivalry games, more things like that. I do think that is going to be a limiting factor preventing this whole Armageddon situation a lot of people are worried about with college football. So what do you guys think of my assessment of the situation? Do you think that's fair? Are you worried about NIL? Are you worried about conference realignment? Do you think that conference realignment is going to expand? Are you worried about players getting $25 million a year to sit the bench? What are your concerns right now? Because honestly, I think things are going to be good. I'm telling you right now, NIL, you still got to play the games, and conference realignment, you still want to see big-time matchups. And again, you have to make sure that there's the limitations on the size of your conference and on what you do in terms of why you add a team to your conference. So I think those are my big two reasons. I think I'm good with that. Anyways, get in the comments right now. Let me know what you guys think. All right, guys, that's it. Thank you so much for being here. Please like, share, comment, subscribe. I'll see you guys later. I am out.